Warm welcome, sir, and such a beautiful introduction. Very good evening to all of us, all of you, and all my colleagues and students. Let's start with the webinar straight away. So I have decided to take this topic: electric vehicles, past, present, and the future. By the end of the session, I hope everybody understand why I have taken this topic as a webinar. So let's start with. I have divided this webinar into three parts: the past, the present, and the future. In the past, I'll be talking about the history. It consists of rise, decline, and revival of electric vehicles. In the present section, I'll be talking about electric vehicles, why we are talking about electric vehicles, and what is the scenario in global scale and Indian scale. And also, we'll be talking about the ecosystem. And in future, I'll be talking about V2G and IoT. For obvious reason, I will not give you the full form for V2G. If I give you the full form of V2G right now, then all the interest will be gone. So we'll see what is V2G when time comes, and I'll be concluding the webinar. I have given pretty much good amount of weightage for the past. I'll justify that also during the course. Now let's start with the past. So as far as I remember, this was the first electric vehicle I have seen in my memory. And when I started taking interest in vehicles, so I started you can say searching about this kind of vehicle. So this was the first vehicle which I had seen during my college days on the road, and this was Mahindra Reva. It was India's electric vehicle. It was launched in 2001. It was completely Indian made. Then after this vehicle, because of this vehicle, the interest in the vehicle increased, and I started doing kind of research and history. So, if you want to know when was the first electric vehicle by definition, it was launched in 1881. It was first human carrying electric vehicle with its own power source. And by that time, the first gasoline engine vehicle was also introduced. It was running on the road. I think it was 1880 or 79. At that time, the gasoline engine vehicle were running on the road. And after that 3 years, the first electric vehicle on its own power source was introduced on the road. And first production electric car, which has three wheels, and it was production electric car, was introduced in 1884. Right up, okay. In 1884, the first production electric vehicle was launched, and it was built by Thomas Parker. And I'll tell you, he built that vehicle out of concern of increased pollution and the smoke from the gasoline engine, which were introduced just 5 years before. So you can see how aware that person was about the environment. And from there, the golden age of electric vehicles started. The first electric street taxis were introduced in 1889. Then the Porsche designed all-wheel electric car in 1898. Then the Detroit Electric was debuted in US. Then in that 20 years, 1890s to 1900, the 20 years, the interest in electric vehicles increased. And why it shouldn't be? Because it had following advantages. Best advantage, it had low vibration as compared to gasoline engines. It had no smell, no noise associated which was associated with the gasoline engine. It did not require any gear changes. It did not require any manual effort to start what we call as cranking. It was popular as a city cars, and those cars were marketed as women's cars because they were easy to drive. Apart from these advantages, electric vehicles had the following disadvantage. Obviously, the lack of power infrastructure and the short range. Now, if you pay attention, I would like you to remember these two disadvantages: the lack of power infrastructure and the short range. Now, to overcome this, there was one service provided or other service proposed in 1896, which was extensible battery. The thing was, there was car company and there was one battery company. They combined, you can say, they put hand together and they produced a service system where one will produce a car, one will produce a battery, and those batteries were exchangeable. So you can exchange those batteries once exhausted. and this service was provided till 1924. Now I'll tell you, this service or exchangeable battery is actually right now is considered as a future technology, coming technology. Um, it is rightly it is introduced in the countries like Korea and Japan right now in an introduction basis, but it is now the future which we had already in 1896. After this, the decline of electric vehicles started because in 1920s the road infrastructure was improved and that required longer range. Then large reservoirs of petroleum were found, and because of that, the running cost of gasoline engines, running cost of gasoline cars were dropped. At the same time, the electric starter was invented, and because of that, the manual cranking went off. Then mufflers were designed. Because of the noise was you can say taken out of the equation. And the final nail in the coffin for electric vehicles was mass production of gasoline engines by Henry Ford in 1908. Because of the mass production, the cost per vehicle dropped dramatically low, and for the same vehicle or for the same capacity vehicle, the gasoline engine vehicle were very costly compared to gasoline engine were very cheaply compared to electric vehicles. And then the development of electric vehicles completely stopped. And then the development of gasoline engines and diesel powered vehicles started, and they took over the world. But in 1960s and 70s, oil crisis compelled to rethink the option. In 1950s, American Motor Corporation announced a joint research effort considering producing electric cars powered by self-charging battery. Now, this company laid foundation for the hybrid vehicles. I'll tell you, I'll speak of the hybrid vehicles in later one. And in early 1990s, the California Air Resource Board began to push for more efficient, fuel efficient and lower emission vehicles. Now they actually are pushing for the zero carbon emission vehicles. You should not have any carbon emission from the vehicle. That's the final aim of this CARB. Now, because of these incidences or because of this laws and you can say the companies, electric vehicles started their return to the market. In 1991, the Buddy was introduced to the world. We all have heard about this Toyota Prius hybrid vehicle, the Honda Insight. As I told about the Mahindra Reva Electric, and we all know about Tesla. It was introduced in 2008, and then the 2010 Nissan launched its Leaf vehicle, which is completely electric. So this was the past. Now let's move forward for the present. So let's start to identify the electric vehicles. For that, we'll have to compare the two types of vehicles: the IC engine or engine powered vehicle, the diesel engine or petrol engine, and the electric motor vehicle. Now we'll compare these two type of vehicles depending upon their components. Now whatever components which are shown in gray, the engine, the radiator and the fuel storage, which we see in our regular cars and which are bulkier. These components are very bulky. And the components which are shown in green are the components of an electric vehicle: the electric motor, the power electronics, the battery and the charger. Now as we are reducing the component weight, that is making possible to make a vehicle with a lightweight material. So you don't have to build a frame which will hold the components like engine, heavier components like engine radiator. You can go for the lighter material which will hold the electric motor and battery, which are not that much heavy. Now identifying these two components or two types of vehicles, we'll move forward on for discussing the types of electric vehicles. Obviously, we have regular gasoline engine vehicles. I have not shown those cars in this. Right now, I am talking about only electric vehicles. The first one is hybrid electric vehicle. The middle one is plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and the last one is battery electric vehicle. Now, hybrid electric vehicles were introduced in 1990s. What they had the engine, gasoline engine, as their main power source, and fuel was petrol, the gasoline. That was the primary input to the vehicle. Now, what they had along with the engine and the fuel tank, they had an electric motor, the smaller one, and the battery, the smaller one. Now electric motor and the gasoline engine work simultaneously sometimes, and they work randomly to power the engine. If you needed more power, the gasoline engine run the vehicle. If you need lesser power, when the vehicle is already moving and you don't need any power, then the engine is switched off, the motor starts running the vehicle. But when you are climbing the hill, at that time you will require more power, then the gasoline engine along with the electric motor will run the vehicle. And the battery for the system was charged with the components of the engine itself. So there was no separate connection required for the charging of this vehicle. You had only fuel, which was gasoline, and that components of the electric motor were run by the battery, and the battery was charged with the help of gasoline engine. The next type of vehicle came plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. It is similar, the working of this vehicle is similar to that one, the previous one, the hybrid electric vehicle, but now this car can take two inputs. It has a fuel tank, so you can fill the petrol or diesel, and it does have a charger, so you can charge the battery. Now compared to the hybrid electric vehicle, this has a bigger battery and the smaller gas tank. The working remains the same, but now you can say that it is running more on the battery of electric motor and run lesser on the gasoline engine or the gas. And last type what we are talking about here is the battery electric vehicle, where battery is charged. There is no engine at all. There is an electric motor and there is a battery, and battery runs the electric motor, and you can charge the battery with a plug and charging station, various charging stations. So now understanding the difference between this regular vehicle, IC engine vehicle, and the electric vehicle, all the three electric vehicles I'm talking about. So why we are paying attention to electric vehicles? Obviously, because it is more reliable. When we compare with IC engine vehicle and electric vehicle, the electric vehicle has 100 times your moving parts. We don't require radiator. We don't require transmission. We don't have a rotating components of engine itself. So there are 100 fewer moving particles. So the servicing becomes easier, and it has a longer lifetime. So that is one reason to go for electric vehicle. But there is a bigger reason to go for electric vehicle, and which is shown in this picture. Now this picture was taken at India Gate before the lockdown and during the lockdown. The left hand side is the before the lockdown, where you can clearly see the pollution in the air, and on the right hand side you can clearly see the clear air. And that is you can come to know that the reason for this drastic change obviously was the number of vehicles running on the road. So the main reason to go for electric vehicles is obvious: emission. Now why we need to pay attention to emissions? Because it causes many diseases. Now we already know how deadly and respiratory disease can be. The emission can cause your acute respiratory disease. It can cause chronic respiratory diseases. Obviously, these are lung-related diseases. And then there was a study made by WHO. The study said that there is a possibility of lung cancer also. If you consume more and more pollutants, carcinogenic pollutants, there is a chances of lung cancer. And then Lancet published a 10-year study which said that exposure to the pollution can also cause a heart disease and the stroke. So basically, pollution is not good for health. So we need to drop the emission, and most of us must have heard about the emission norms. The BS6 was supposed to be implemented in April. So that is for the dropping the emission from lowering the emissions from the vehicles. Now let's see. Now we have seen all the 4 types of the vehicles. Now let's see what are the emissions coming from this vehicle. A conventional vehicle, it has an energy source which is petrol, and it has a plenty of emission, as we all know. I am not going into the numbers right now, but I think this graphical interpretation will be enough to tell you what we are talking about. Hybrid vehicle takes the petrol as a source, but it consumes petrol as well as battery, so it is running on the electric and the gasoline. So the emissions are compared to the conventional vehicle, the emissions are lower. When we talk about plug-in hybrid, where the battery was bigger, the main driver for the vehicle, the emissions drop further down. And when we talk about all electric vehicles, this vehicle runs completely on the battery, so there is no emission. Now, these kind of emissions are called tailpipe emissions, the emission which is coming from the tailpipe of a vehicle. Now, as we see, there is no emission from the tailpipe for all electric vehicles does not mean it is all clean. For that, we need to see the bigger picture. Let's look at the bigger picture. Now, there is one term called well-to-wheel analysis. By definition, it starts with a well where oil is extracted and it ends at the wheel. That means at the end point is a vehicle. Now, when we talk about well and well to wheel, it is again divided into two parts. One is well to tank, where it starts from the well of the oil to the tank where you are fueling the vehicle, refueling the vehicle, and from tank to wheel. Now, this will be further demonstrated in next slide, which gives a better idea. Obviously, from well we are extracting the fuel, and this extraction will obviously have the emission. So the carbon dioxide is always emitted. But when we are talking about gasoline or diesel and petrol, it requires oil refining that emits CO2. It requires refueling, and then the vehicle itself emits the carbon dioxide. And when we talk about the electricity generation, the power generation emits carbon dioxide, but after that there is no emission of carbon dioxide, or rather there is no emission at all. So well to tank, there is a carbon dioxide emitted in both the cases, but tank to wheel, there is no carbon dioxide or rather no emission in the electric vehicle and compared to the combustion vehicle. So basically electric vehicle will not say it's completely green, but it is green in some part. It's green on the tank to wheel portion. It is not green on the wheel to tank portion. Now when we talk about the emissions, now this is the data which I got from during my graduation. It is annual well to wheel car emission by fuel type. It was the compact mid-size car was studied, and we can see when we are having gasoline. Okay. When we talk about gasoline engine, obviously the carbon dioxide emission, the NOx. NOx is basically, I think, third year people must be knowing, the nitrogen oxide, nitrogen dioxide, all those things. And PM is particulate matter. 2.5 is the size of the matter. So I won't go into technicalities right now. But a gasoline engine will have the highest number of carbon dioxide emission, and the NOx is produced at the car. When we talk about electric vehicle, the middle section, we are talking about the electric vehicle charged on the grid. Now, when I say the grid, that means when the electricity is produced with the help of coal, nuclear, or something like that. So that car will not have a emission at its level, but it will have emission of carbon dioxide at the back that we have seen. So it will, the numbers are mentioned there. So you can go from those numbers. And when we talk about electric charge vehicle which is charged with the renewable, that means the current is produced with the help of wind energy or solar energy, then it will have a zero carbon emission. So there is no carbon footprint when your electric vehicle is charged with the renewable. So that's why you can see the drastic drop in the emission. So that's why we need to go for the electric vehicle. Now, when we talk about the electric vehicles, we need to understand what are the components which are driving the vehicle. So these are the components. So basically, obviously, the battery charger, power inverter, motor controller, electric engine, drive system, and regenerative braking. When we talk about the battery can be charged through the use of ordinary grid electricity. Ordinary grid electricity, that means you can charge from the board from your home. Those are the grid, that's called grid charging. Now these batteries, major technologies are lithium ion, lead acid, and nickel metal hydride. Now most of the cars will have lithium ion batteries. Now this lithium, there's one reason why we don't have that much electric vehicles in India. The reason primarily is the lithium is, I would say 50% of lithium of the world is mined in Australia, and 50% of lithium is refined in China. So those countries, I'll see the number. I have the one graph where we can see that there is a big number of vehicles, electric vehicles in China, because they had a refining infrastructure. So this technology, battery technology, is very cheaper there compared to India. Then comes the battery charger. This onboard charger takes 230-volt single phase main supply and convert it to the DC in order to store in the battery. This charger is there to limit the power to the battery so that it can prevent overheating of the battery and overheating of the power supply. Now there are types of charger also, the connector. The left hand side you can see the diagram. This is a charger which is used in India or other, I'll say, European Union countries and India also. So there are 6 to 7 types of charger. I have that slide next. The next component is a power inverter. This comes under the power electronics. This converts your AC to DC, DC to AC. Why we need it? Because battery is stored with the DC current. From battery we get the DC current. That DC current is required to convert into AC to power the motor. And this DC current is also required to convert it to the 12-volt charge to power the electronics inside the engine, the display, the system, indicators, and all those things. So this is the power inverter which converts AC to DC and DC to AC to and so. It also converts AC energy from regenerative braking. Now I'll tell you what is regenerative braking in the new course. It converts AC energy generated during braking and it converts to the DC and stores in the battery. The next component is the motor controller. Basically, it controls everything. It acts as a surrogate between the motor and the battery. It helps monitor, regulate vehicles operator, motor, battery, and accelerator pedal. It has a microprocessor which can limit and redirect the current. Now, there is one system called battery monitoring system, which comes under this one, where battery monitoring system constantly monitors the battery, the voltage, the current inside it, the amount of charging, the speed of charging, speed of discharging. It controls the speed of charging, it controls the speed of discharging also, and it develops a system. It learns the battery uses for particular user, and it can tell you how much kilometers of you can run with this much of charge left in the battery, all those things. So battery monitor system is a big system which is incorporated in this vehicle. Electric engine. So basically we use AC motors because those are less expensive and lighter. And talking about most common used AC motors, which is used in the Hyundai Kona and Tata Nexon, which is permanent magnet 3-phase AC motor. So that's the motor which is commonly used. Now there are induction motor, 3-phase induction motor, which is also used, which was used by the Tesla in its earlier model. And there is another type of motor which is DC, which is currently used by the Tesla. Now DC motors give you the advantage of higher speed range, but those are costlier. So basically in Indian market you will see the permanent magnet 3-phase AC motors only. Those are the motors which are running the vehicles in India. Drive system, it transfers the mechanical energy from the traction wheel. It's not a conventional transmission system. The drive system is not conventional transmission system. It gives power from motor to the vehicle. You don't have the axle and all those things in the electric vehicle. And last is regenerative braking. Now we all know that every body which is moving has its own inertia, and when we brake it, those components will try to keep on rotating or keep on moving due to its inertia. So those are moving on its own. So we try to absorb that energy. So this regenerative braking system absorbs that inertia, converts that to the current, and sends back to the battery, and that is stored. So around 15 to 20% of energy which is lost in braking can be regenerated and stored back in the battery, and which is this is very common in electric vehicles. Every electric vehicle, four-wheel vehicle, will have regenerative braking. This is the general flow. From the left side, you can see the port is connected to the house, something like that. So from there, you have the battery charger. Battery charger will give the current to the battery, where it is stored, charge is stored. Then you have the inverter running the electric motor, and you have the DC to DC converter to run the components of vehicle. And the motor obviously gives torque to the drive. These are the components. One by one, I'll just name it. The charger. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this one. I'll just name the components. We have the charger, we have the battery. Then the control, as I said, it controls the amount of charging and discharging. Then we have pod box, which converts the motion of your pedal. Depending upon the pedal, it determines how much charge is required, what is the speed, what the speed driver is expecting. Then we have the motor, which runs the vehicle. Then we have the transmission. Not all the vehicles will have the transmission. Then DC to DC converter, and then instrumentation panel, which requires 12 volt current. All those components. Now, depending upon the arrangement, we have the central drive and wheel hub drive. The central drive has a battery, motor, switchgear, differential, and the drive shaft. It is the simplest layout. It has a reduction weight, cost-effective single-speed reduction gear. But the next one, which is wheel hub drive, which is commonly used, where you can have battery, which is powering motor at each vehicle. So basically, you can control the left-hand side wheel can rotate slower, and the right-hand side wheel can rotate faster while taking the turn. So there is no differential required. Only the motor speed can be manipulated, and you can get the desired output. Now I'll talk about the categories of electric vehicles in India. Now those categories were decided in 1989 Central Motor Vehicle Rules, the CMVR, and there was amendment made in 2005 for the electric vehicles. So basically, category are L, M, and N. I won't go into details. The L category is basically for two-wheelers, and additional L5 and L7 are categories for three-wheelers and four-wheelers. Quadricycles, I will say. L7 is quadricycles, and L5 is three-wheelers. In simple speaking, it's a rickshaw, auto rickshaw. L5 is an auto rickshaw, L7 is a quad vehicle, and L category is your two-wheelers. And you guys are running scooter bikes. Those are called L2 category because they have the capacity more than 50 cc. If there is an engine which has more than 50 cc, it's called as L2 category. And M category is reserved for the motor vehicle with at least 4 wheels. N category, again 4 wheels, but for carrying goods. M category is for passenger, N category is for carrying goods, and A category vehicles are for the agriculture purposes. Now why I am taking time to discuss this, because we should know what we are having. All your vehicles, two-wheelers are L2 category, all your four-wheel vehicles are called M1 category. Now there are subcategories for the electric vehicles, but those are not named. So basically, you can say battery powered two-wheel vehicle, which comes under electric vehicle, L category, and L5, which we discuss about three-wheeler. It is basically called e-rickshaw when it is operated with a battery, and it's called e-cart. L7 category vehicle are called e-cart when it's operated with a battery. So e-rickshaw is for passenger and e-cart is for carrying goods. N and M category are basically combined, and those are called hybrid electric vehicles, depending upon the, as we have seen, power plug-in hybrid and battery electric completely. So there is no separate category for electric for M and N. Those are together called as a battery electric vehicle. Then we have the hybrid electric vehicles for agriculture as A6 and A7, and those things I just put for your information. Now let's talk about the global scenario. Now this is the data for last I think 2018. This is the percentage of total vehicle sales by country. So considering percentage, the Norway had almost 50% of cars sold in 2018 were electric vehicles. So it is the leading country. So then followed by Iceland, Sweden, all those countries. And when we talk about market by total EV sales, the China is leading the pack because, as I said, it has the cheapest battery technology because it refines 50% of lead or lithium from the world. So it has the cheapest battery technology. So it sold around 1.1 thousand K vehicles in 2018. But as a percentage, it's not. It's around 4.4% as a total vehicles sold by the China. Now, after paying attention to this one, we see at the last we have US, which is 2.1%, but we don't see India. So where do we stand here? According to sales in 2018 and 19, we have only 0.1% electric vehicles. That we are talking about the four-wheel vehicles. So in 2017-18, there were around 1,200 electric vehicles sold. In 2018, there were around 3,600 electric vehicles sold. That is around only 0.1%. So we are nowhere near to anyone. And when I came forward to this, when I came across this data, so I just randomly asked my friends. I made a Google form while preparing for this webinar. I made a Google form and I forwarded it to my friends. And I just simply asked a couple of questions. So first question obviously was, do you own a vehicle? So after my 78% of my friends had electric vehicles, 22% had no. So we can say there are plenty of people which in India owns the vehicle, two-wheeler, four-wheeler, some kind of vehicle. So there is a big number of vehicles running on the road, but none of them had electric vehicles for obvious reason. I mean, I have not seen in my personal contact, there is no one having electric vehicle. So I asked them, have you heard about the current market leaders in India, Hyundai, Tata? So some of them had heard because they were commercial running on the TV. But then I asked them, are you aware of electric two-wheeler startup? So 63% were not aware because there is no awareness for those two-wheeler companies. Then I asked them, do you know that government is giving incentive for the electric vehicles? 89% had no idea about that. Came to now I'll come to the point. Came to, but 89% had no idea. So I hope at the end of this webinar you will be aware of this term. Came to during this webinar I just went from couple of documents and there was one report by the Indian government which was published in May 2017, which said that making India's passenger mobility shared, electric and connected can cut its energy demand by 64%. Energy demand by 64%, that means energy requirement considering we can reduce the import of diesel and petrol. And we can obviously have the carbon emission reduced by 37%. So basically, if we move forward for the shared electric connected mobility, we can save a lot of money, and we can also drop the emission. We can reduce the emission by around 37% in due course. The graph tells for 2030, that is next for 10 years. The blue graph is for business as usual if you don't take any measure. And the green graph is for if we take measures for the shared electric connected vehicle. Now pay attention, we are talking about shared electric connected vehicle. The government is aiming for shared electric and connected vehicle. So this is the basic program. This vehicle, see the auto rickshaw, the cab, the bus or the train. We are trying to have those vehicles, that ecosystem connected, and those ecosystem as electric, and it is shared vehicles. I mean, more the shared vehicle will be, will obviously have lesser vehicle on the road and lesser, you can say, strain on the infrastructure. So government is also, there are a couple of programs which are run by the government. Now we'll go one by one. There's one Make in India. Obviously, we have heard about this. there are 25 sectors covered in Making in India, but some of them are dedicated to the development of electric vehicle infrastructure in the country. Then Digital India, the part of the Digital India can be used as a digital cashless payment, and all those subsidies for the vehicles. Then there is a program called FAME. It is actually faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles. This is particularly for electric vehicles, hybrid and electric vehicles. It focuses on technology development and the project and charging infrastructure. Then again, we have the Green Mobility Fund given by the government to the cities, where they can develop a corridor. Then smart cities, they can develop transport options which will have more of a common transport, shared transport compared, and which will have lesser private transport. Now let's pay attention to FAME. This is, as I said, it is faster adoption manufacturing for electric vehicles. It was launched. The phase 1 was launched in 2015. It had allocated budget of around 895 crores. The phase 2 was launched last year, and it has a budget of around 10,000 crores. Now in the next slide, I have breakup of that 10,000 crore, but I'll just go through it quickly. So the second phase is basically the amount of which is spent in the second phase is basically divided into 3 parts. Demand incentive. So demand incentive is basically incentive given to the buyer of electric vehicle. And then the second component is charging infrastructure. So we need a charging infrastructure ready for the electric vehicles. And the administrative expenditure, which is for awareness and basically awareness of electric vehicles in the country. Now I have further breakup for this demand incentive provided by the government. Now these are the incentives given by the government to the buyer of an electric vehicle. So if you are planning to buy an electric two-wheeler, let's say this vehicle has a 2 kilowatt hour battery. So it will government will give you the incentive of around 20,000. That is 10,000 per kilowatt hour. So that's the incentive government is giving for you, so that government is trying to promote the sales of electric vehicles, so we can have a better future and clear air to breathe in. And we have seen the electric buses already running. So I won't go into detail of this each and every category segment. Let's move forward. Let's talk about the ecosystem. So we have the grid to vehicle ecosystem. So basically the point 1 where we are generating the power. We have the solar system. You can have a coal power or wind power. So basically point 1 where your electricity is generated. Point 2 is the stations where you can charge the electric vehicles, such as your offices, or you can say malls, where you are parking vehicles for a couple of hours. So you can have the infrastructure there, so that when you are parking the vehicle, it is charged in 2 hours, 3 hours, or let's say 7 hours, 8 hours. So for that we need a different type of charger, different type of voltage and current. The third is quick, the petrol station like stations, where you can it charges car directly from the DC. So there is no AC to DC conversion, so it's directly DC to DC charging, and it can be done quickly. In some of the regions, some of the countries, the full vehicle is charged within 15 minutes. And right now what we have in the country, the full vehicle charge from the DC current takes around 1 hour. And the last one is charging your vehicle at home, that too from the plug what you have on your in your home. So from that plug you can charge your vehicle. Typical car takes around 10 to 15 hours to charge fully. So this basically the vehicle can be charged in 2 ways: AC charging from the home, which require onboard charger, which converts AC to DC, and then saves that charge in the battery. And obviously we have BMS, the battery monitoring system, which controls the rate of charging. And we have another DC charging, which is fast charging from the station, which charges the vehicle way faster than the AC. So this is just again what I have said, the home charging will take around 10 hours. drive-through station. So that's the variation of charging speed you can have. So that's the ecosystem we are developing as a country. These are the chargers by country-wise, by AC and DC charger are different. So what we have is the EU, and EU and the rest of market, that is EU mannequins and CCS2. These are the AC and DC chargers which are used in India. And the Tesla has its own charger which is universal for AC and DC. So talking about the Indian market, we have right now we are selling electric vehicles as a Hyundai Kona, Mahindra e-Verito, Tata Nexon electric vehicle, and Tata Tigor electric vehicle. Talking about two-wheelers, we have plenty of two-wheelers. As I said, these are the startup Indian startup vehicles, two-wheeler vehicles. So it's a 450. Now these vehicles have lesser, you can say, range. It has around 190 to 100 kilometer per charge. But this is the starting point. We'll move forward from this point. So this is the starting point where we are developing the battery technologies to have a better go. And we already have, as I said, electric vehicles for the state transport. The Tata Motors, Electra, and Ashok Leyland are providing our government electric vehicles for the state transport, and those are run in the Bengaluru, Rajkot, Goa, Mumbai, and Surat, all those cities. And this is the current charging station scenario in Mumbai. I think I took this screenshot last week. So Tata itself has installed charging station near Vikhroli. So there is around 6 to 7 charging stations developed by Tata at Vikhroli. So these are the basic charging stations. So we can see basically you can see we need to grow. There is a lot of, we are lagging behind actually, thinking about the infrastructure. Now, if I talk about the future, this was the present what we have in the country. Talking about the future of electric vehicles, the first is V2G, the connected cars, and IoT. Now, IoT you must have heard in the previous webinars also. The Internet of Things. Internet of Things is actually whatever you have, it is connected in layman language. So I'll talk about the V2G. Now, as name suggests, is vehicle to grid. That is a technology. Now, what happens in this technology? We can take energy from the battery and push it back to the power grid. So it goes both ways. You can charge the vehicle from the grid, and when you are not using it, when there's a demand in area where the power is required, you can discharge your vehicle and send that energy back to the grid, and then that grid can provide the energy where it is required. Now, obviously, when you are doing this, you will get the payment for this one. When you are charging your vehicle, you will get the bill, and when you are discharging your vehicle to the grid, you will get reimbursement for the corresponding current. So this is required because when we talk about renewable energy, renewable energies are not constant. I mean, those are not constant. The source is not constant. I mean, if you talk about solar energy, you can get energy during the day, but at night there might be some patches where you need the energy and you are short of the energy. So we can balance this thing. If you move to the renewable energy, and this patches where we are generating more energy and where we are lacking energy, we can clear these patches by having this V2G, vehicle to grid. All the Nissan Leaf vehicles have this technology. This is the basic diagram where both way arrow can be shown. The next one is connected car ecosystem. So traditionally we had only vehicle which was individually driven. Then the connected car vehicle system, we have the your vehicle is connected to the mobile. It is connected to the GPS, and it has a software update received from the company. It has a wireless network to give you the current, you can say, traffic and all the status. Now we are presently at the connected car ecosystem. What is in the future? In future, we are talking about the public infrastructure which is talking to the vehicle. We are talking about then V2X communication. V2X, V is vehicle, 2 is 2, and X is anything. So vehicle can communicate to anything. I have that slide next. I'll talk about what we are talking. I'll tell you what we are talking about here. And then automation, sensor automation, and cloud-based network is the future for this one. The next one is Internet of Things. So as I say in layman language, whatever you have, it is interconnected with a network. So when we talk about IoT of vehicles, so what, for example, with a real-time battery monitoring system, I can have a status of my battery, and this status is given to the grid. Yeah, this particular XYZ vehicle has this much battery and it can be discharged to this much. So the grid can extract that much amount of charge from the vehicle. And as we know, there is a need for electric storage system as electric cars or electric users becoming more compelling. So there is a need for electric storage. So your vehicle becomes storage when you are not using it. So you can connect, you can have this thing connected to the internet and connected to the grid and get the charge out of the vehicle. And the last slide here is a vehicle. V2X is whole system approach. So start with V2G, as we have talked about V2G, then V2I, transport infrastructure. So your car can communicate with the signal system, and your car can give you a signal that in upcoming signal you are supposed to get red signal, so drive it slow or something like that. Then data, obviously we have the cloud where driving patterns and the vehicle condition can be stored in the cloud. Then other mobilities, I mean, you can have connected mobilities where you, from the vehicle to mobilities, you can have the communication, how much time is required or how much fast or slow you should go to catch a particular train or particular bus or something like that. And then obviously V2V, you can talk, your vehicle can have a conversation with your nearby vehicle, depending upon how much it can communicate with the vehicle. If it is coming too close, it can give you warning to both the vehicles or something like that. Then it is V2D, that is mobile devices. We currently have it V2D, and V2P where vehicle can detect the personal pedestrian. So this is the upcoming feature of electric vehicles. Now these things can be used in a regular vehicle, also in IC engine vehicles. But the more sensors you use in a regular IC engine vehicle, more power it draws from the petrol. So that means more emissions. So we are not talking about this system in IC engine vehicles. We are talking about this system only on electric vehicles. So that we can have a clear atmosphere. In conclusion, I'll say with increasing concern of pollution, electric vehicles are the future. There is a need of awareness at personal level, which I have found, which is there is actually need of awareness, and we need to increase our contribution towards electric vehicle ecosystem. Now we can contribute by buying one, or you can contribute by building an ecosystem or designing an ecosystem for the electric vehicles. And we all are engineers, we can think of something to strengthen the ecosystem. And we need to build infrastructure, thinking about the future development also. So with this, I'll stop. I will say thank you, and I hope if any one of you opt for electric vehicles after watching this webinar, I'll say I am succeeded today. Then, thank you, sir.
Okay, we have one question from Sampath sir, Jugal sir. Sir is asking, can we put solar panel on electric vehicle?
Yes,
what
sir,
is the
that
opinion?
can be done. That can be done. I mean, as far as you are not using fuel, petrol and diesel, I mean that can be used. Solar panel is obviously that was thought earlier, but then because the variation in the energy that can be generated from the solar and the cost of solar panel, because of that, these things are not happening right now.
Moving on to the next question from Amol Khatkade sir. How do you expect current service stations to cater to the electric vehicles? when expertise are in IC engine servicing. So I think sir is asking that when the current service stations they are more expertised in IC engine servicing.
That's why
How will you?
I said now we are lagging behind as a for the infrastructure. We need to develop this infrastructure. Not only infrastructure, we need to develop the manpower for this. That's why I said there is no awareness there, or I'll say there is very little awareness for this kind of vehicles. So we need to bring this topic to public that yes, this is the point where we can have our manpower introduced or manpower used and have we can overcome this thing, but it will take time.
Okay.
Right now we don't have that much infrastructure.
Okay. Sir, then one more question is, will this electric vehicle be cost effective? So that is the main thing that we want to know actually.
Right now, in Indian market, I'll say the electric vehicle, four-wheel electric vehicle cost around 13 to 14 lakhs. And then there are subsidies provided by the government. As I said, electric vehicles will get 10,000 rupees per kilowatt of battery. So if you are having 30 kilowatt battery electric vehicle, four-wheel electric vehicle, so multiplied by 10,000, that is the subsidy you are getting, and that's particularly given to the vehicle which is registered for the public transport. So government is rather making you buy electric vehicle, but for the public transport, so that we can reduce the number of private vehicles. And if you still want to have electric vehicle as a private vehicle, then there is another subsidy, or rather say there is another provision where you can get income tax deduction, where the interest is waived off, around 1.5 lakhs interest is waived off, and there are road tax waiver, then registration charges waiver from the government. That too again depend on the state by state.
Okay. Sir, one more question. I think we have time for a couple questions, I think.
Yeah, sure.
So, Sajid Sheikh is asking, sir, in foreign countries, IC engine cars are being converted to electric car. So, is there any scope of that in India?
Foreign countries have stopped developing IC engine. I will say the engine company which provides engines to the Mercedes, Daimler Engines has stopped developing IC engine last year. So they are moving completely towards electric vehicles.
Okay.
And if you convert IC engine with the electric, we can talk about the hybrid vehicles. Basically, we as a country, we have skipped this phase. Foreign countries had IC engines, then they had a hybrid vehicles. Now they are going to the electric vehicles. We have completely skipped the hybrid vehicles because there was no awareness. Right now we are at the point where we have to go for electric vehicles straight away. There is no time for the hybrid vehicles.
Madam had a query.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Query, in fact, from the mechanical engineering students' point of view.
Yes, ma'am.
Mechanical engineering students, most of the students, when they take admission in mechanical engineer, they want to make their career in automotive industry.
Yes.
And now when you're saying that electrical vehicles will take a market, and maybe 20 years down the line, at least 50% of the vehicles, if they are converted into electrical vehicles, don't you think that mechanical engineers are replaced by electrical engineers? And this is, unless they learn those subjects, unless the students know how the battery powers the motor and how motor rotates the wheels, unless they know in depth these subjects, I mean, it becomes more of a multidisciplinary subject. Because as of now, most of the mechanical engineering students, they take industrial electronics and mechatronics as the subjects which are very, they take it lightly, they don't attend the lectures, they are not interested in practicals, but they are interested in working in electrical vehicle industry.
Yeah, basically, madam. Basically, if I have to answer this question, I'll say as a mechanical engineer, you will always be working on the vehicle, but on the outer side, the dynamics, the braking, the acceleration, all the forces, the chassis, the frame, everything has to be calculated using the force equations and everything. And the fluid dynamics is incorporated for the dynamics of vehicular dynamics. So I will say only the engine part is removed for the mechanical student. Everything else is there itself. So I would like to thank everyone I mean, from principal madam to my department for allowing me to
Wonderful.
deliver this one. Thank you.